Welcome back guys, Ben here, and today we're checking out 18 new games coming out in September 2026. September is absolutely packed with everything from huge dark fantasy RPGs and survival games to horror, tactical shooters, small indie discoveries, and a few major games finally leaving early access and hitting their full 1.0 release. Just a quick disclaimer before we get started though, this video has been put together ahead of Gamescom, as I'll actually be out there when you're watching this. Gamescom naturally brings plenty of announcements and release date changes, so there may be some September games announced after this was recorded, and equally, one or two games on this list could still get delayed or moved around. As always, there are all PC games coming to Steam with UK pricing, demos, and early access details included where they're available at the time of recording. We've still got a lot to get through, so like, comment, subscribe, really appreciate it. If you enjoy discovering new games, this is the place to be. Let's get straight into it. September kicks off pretty violently with Crimson Moon, a dark fantasy action game where you play as Nephilim, a human-angel hybrid created to protect humanity from demonic forces. This one looks very combat focused. You're carving your way through demons with supernatural abilities and brutal melee attacks before taking on some pretty imposing bosses, either completely solo or alongside a friend in co-op. Not a huge amount revealed about the wider progression or structure just yet, but visually, it's going for that dark gothic fantasy aesthetic with plenty of blood, monsters, and ridiculously oversized enemies. Crimson Moon launches on the 1st of September, with pricing yet to still be announced. Moonlighter 2 is officially leaving early access. The Endless Vault reaches its full 1.0 release on the 2nd of September, keeping that brilliant idea at the heart of Moonlighter, where you're effectively playing two completely different games at once. Head out adventuring and you're fighting through colorful dimensions, gathering increasingly valuable loot, and deciding how much you can safely cram into your backpack. Make a home alive and suddenly you're a shopkeeper, deciding what everything is worth, selling your haul and reinvesting those profits into better equipment for the next adventure. It's a really satisfying cycle of fight, loot, sell, and improve, and if you've deliberately been waiting for early access to finish before jumping in, September looks like the time to do it. Moonlighter 2 The Endless Vault hits 1.0 on the 2nd of September, priced at £24.99, and there's a demo available on Steam as well. Human by day, vampire by night, and you've only got a limited amount of time to save your family. The Blood of Dawnwalker is an open-world dark fantasy RPG set in 14th century Europe, following Cohen, a man caught somewhere between humanity and vampirism. The dual identity isn't just there for story either. Who Cohen is changes between day and night, opening up different abilities, different ways of approaching the world, while your actions and the secrets you uncover shape how his story develops. It's also the debut game from Rebel Wolves, a studio founded by former CD Projekt Red developers, so there's understandably a lot of interest around this one and what they can do with their own take on a large, choice-driven RPG. This could easily be one of September's biggest games if it delivers. The Blood of Dawnwalker releases on 2nd of September for £59.99. There is also a $69.99 Eclipse edition, which contains a digital world compendium, a soundtrack, and the digital comic book as well. Onimusha is properly back. Way of the Sword takes us to Kyoto, where a samurai wielding the mysterious Oni gauntlets finds himself facing the returning Genma in some seriously bloody sword fights. And the combat is really the star here. This looks weighty, deliberate, and brutal, with plenty of parrying, counterattacks, and dismemberment, rather than just button mashing your way through groups of enemies. It's unmistakably Onimusha, but with the production values you'd expect from modern Capcom. There's actually a demo available too, so you can get your hands on it before spending anything. Onimusha Way of the Sword arrives on the 4th of September for £59.99. The Deluxe Edition is £69.99, while £74.99 gets you the Premium Deluxe with additional cosmetics and the in-game digital soundtrack. Scavland takes the survival genre into a post-apocalyptic Soviet wasteland, but rather than first or third person, everything plays out as a hardcore, top-down pixel art RPG. You'll scavenge abandoned locations and underground bunkers for anything useful, take dangerous jobs to build your reputation, and gradually customize your arsenal, all while dealing with radiation, mutants, hostile survivors, and a mysterious deadly mist. Really like the contrast here between the pixel art presentation and what sounds like a fairly unforgiving survival experience underneath. It's certainly one of the smaller releases this month, but also exactly the kind of game that could quietly surprise people. Scavland enters Steam Early Access on the 4th of September. Pricing is still yet to be confirmed. If you missed that era where shooters were fast, aggressive, and weren't afraid to give you an absolutely ridiculous arsenal, SPRAWL 0 is deliberately looking backwards for inspiration. The developers specifically point towards the dynamic gunfights of Halo and Fear, with this fast-paced FPS dropping you into a cyberpunk city being torn apart by military rule and religious fanaticism. You've got more than 40 weapons to play with alongside augments and gravity gloves that add another layer to movement and combat. From the footage, it looks like the idea is to keep you moving and experimenting rather than hiding behind cover, waiting for your health to come back. It's got a really grimy, early 2000s shooter energy to it. There's already a demo on Steam, which feels like the best way to find out whether the combat clicks with you. SPRAWL 0 launches on the 8th of September, no price confirmed just yet. Honeycomb, the world beyond, is doing something with survival crafting that we don't see very often, making biology one of its core systems. You're exploring the alien planet of SOTA 7 as a bioengineer, gathering resources, crafting and building as you'd expect, but you're also experimenting with the ecosystem itself. Plants and animals can be crossbred to develop entirely new species, so exploration becomes about discovering useful traits and figuring out how you can combine them rather than simply collecting another stack of resources. Visually, SOTA 7 looks gorgeous too, and I'm really curious to see where the bioengineering gives Honeycomb enough depth to stand apart in an incredibly busy survival genre. This one was meant to come out last year as well. It's been heavily delayed multiple times. Really excited to get my hands on this one. Honeycomb, The World Beyond launches on the 8th of September. No price yet, but there will be a demo that will arrive on Steam on the 31st of August if you want to try it there first. Michael Myers finally has another video game to terrorize us in. Haloween, the game, takes us back to Halloween night 1978 with players either becoming the boogeyman himself or desperately trying to survive against him. And there's some relevant experience behind this one. The developers have previously worked on Friday the 13th, Predator Hunting Grounds, and Killer Clowns from Outer Space, so asymmetric multiplayer built around iconic horror franchises is very familiar territory for them. Halloween feels like an almost perfect fit for that style of game too. Michael doesn't need an elaborate supernatural ability set to be terrifying. The idea of him quietly stalking players around Haddonfield is enough. Halloween launches on the 8th of September for £35.75. The £53.49 Deluxe Edition adds character skins and 4 days of advanced access on Steam. More than 5 years after it first exploded onto Steam, Valheim is finally reaching 1.0. At this point, most survival fans probably know the deal. Explore a procedurally generated Viking purgatory, either alone or with up to 9 other players, build increasingly elaborate settlements, sail into the unknown, and prepare yourself for some seriously unforgiving boss fights. But 1.0 also arrives alongside the Deep North update, completing another major piece of the world and making this a pretty significant moment for a game that spent years evolving through early access. I played plenty of Velheim myself back when it originally took off, and considering how much has changed since then, 1.0 feels like a very good excuse to start fresh and see what the complete experience looks like. Velheim officially leaves early access on the 9th of September and is currently priced at £23.49 on Steam. WARDOGS takes the large-scale military shooter and makes things a little more chaotic by throwing a third army onto the battlefield. Instead of the usual 2 sides, 100 players are divided across 3 competing teams, all fighting for control across a derelict Eastern European industrial landscape where large parts of the environment can be destroyed around you. I actually played the recent playtest for this one and found it really interesting. There's a strong tactical focus underneath all that destruction, with teamwork and controlling territory being important, while its economy means cash you've earned also feeds into how you approach the battle and level up. With Battlefield going one direction and games like Hell Let Loose occupying the hardcore end of the spectrum, and you have Call of Duty over there, you have games like Armor and ones like that over in that way, this is kind of like a little blend and a mix of all of them, so I'm interested to see whether WARDOGS can carve out its own space somewhere between them. WARDOGS launches on the 10th of September for £36.99 or $45.99 for the supporter edition, which adds some additional weapon camos and supports the devs. RuneScape Dragonwilds is another survival game finally making the jump from early access to a full 1.0 release this month. Rather than being another traditional RuneScape MMO, Dragonwilds takes that universe and turns it into a cooperative survival crafting adventure across the forgotten continent of Ashenfall. You're gathering resources, building, crafting, and developing familiar RuneScape skills, but there's still a proper adventure pushing everything forward. Dragons have returned to Ashenfall, ancient secrets are scattered throughout the world, and ultimately you're preparing yourself to take on the Dragon Queen. It's a really interesting way of translating decades of RuneScape lore and progression into the survival genre, and the 1.0 should be the point where we finally see that complete vision come together. RuneScape Dragonwilds officially reaches 1.0 on the 15th of September and is currently £24.99 on Steam. Sinking Eternity takes us somewhere I don't think enough RPGs explore: deep beneath the ocean. This is a single-player underwater exploration RPG where you're descending into extreme depths, discovering the remains of a civilization that's been lost for thousands of years, and trying to piece together exactly what happened to it. But you're definitely not alone down there. Dangerous sea creatures inhabit the depths, and sometimes your best option isn't fighting them at all. It's hiding and hoping whatever is swimming past doesn't find you. Something inherently unsettling about being kilometers underwater with very little idea of what might be lurking beyond your visibility, so I'm hoping this can really capitalize on that sense of isolation and discovery. Played the demo for this a while ago now. It's been delayed a couple of times, and I think this is more than just like a solo dev's interpretation of Subnautica. It's a little bit more heavy on the RPG and less on the crafting from what I remember. But again, that demo was quite a while ago now, so I'm interested to see where this game's developed and what it's looking like as it releases. Sinking Eternity releases on the 15th of September. There's no price confirmed yet, but the demo is still up on Steam if you want to give it a try for yourself. By day, you run a DVD shop in 2012 New York. By night, you're an assassin. That's Blackwood. And honestly, that premise alone was enough to get my attention. This is a cinematic third-person shooter from the team behind 0 Hour, built around maintaining those two very different sides of your character's life. Once the sun goes down, things get considerably more violent, with responsive gunplay, grounded melee combat, and some pretty brutal-looking takedowns. But I'm equally intrigued by the mundane side of it, actually running the DVD store like you're working in Blockbuster or something like that, how much of those two lives ultimately interact with one another. The whole thing has a gritty crime thriller feel to it, and setting it specifically in New York in 2012 gives Blackwood a pretty distinctive identity as well. Blackwood arrives on the 16th of September. There's currently no demo, and the pricing hasn't been announced for it just yet. Imagine something a little bit like Blueprints, except you're trapped on a space station and Groundhog Day is happening around you. That's roughly how I'd describe RIVAGE, and I actually played the demo during a recent Steam Next Fest and really enjoyed what I saw. You wake up as Miranda aboard the Eris space station, which has been trapped inside a mysterious space phenomenon. Your crew have disappeared, something clearly went very wrong, and you're repeatedly exploring the station and solving puzzles to gradually understand what's happened. It's not quite as complex as something like Blueprints from what I saw in the demo, but it scratches a similar itch of learning more with every attempt and using that knowledge to push things forward. For a relatively small sci-fi puzzle game, this one really surprised me. This was meant to come out in like July or August, it was pushed back, and now RIVAGE releases on the 22nd of September, pricing still yet to be announced. Silent Hill's resurgence continues this September with Townfall, but this one looks very different again. You play as Simon Ordell, returning to the isolated island town of St. Emilia to supposedly put things right, which, this being Silent Hill, presumably isn't going to go particularly well. Rather than simply trying to replicate Silent Hill 2, Townfall looks to be carving out its own identity through tense evasion, sudden violent confrontations, and some properly strange puzzles as Simon's reason for returning. And the truth behind St. Emilia itself gradually comes into focus. That's probably what excites me most where the Silent Hill is going right now. Between the remakes and the completely new stories like this, Konami seems willing to let different developers interpret what Silent Hill can actually be. Silent Hill Townfall releases on the 24th of September for £44.98 or £49.99 for the deluxe edition, which gives you 2 days of advanced access, an additional outfit, and it comes with a digital art book and soundtrack too. Remedy is taking us back into the world of Control, and that alone makes Resonant one of the biggest games on this month's list. Rather than simply retreading Jesse Faden's story, Control Resonant expands this wonderfully bizarre universe with another supernatural adventure built around the strange phenomena and impossible spaces that made the original so memorable. And that's really the appeal of Control for me. Remedy can take brutalist architecture, paranormal horror, completely surreal ideas that shouldn't necessarily fit together and somehow turn them into a world you just want to keep digging deeper into. I'm deliberately not going too far into the story here because this feels like exactly the sort of game that's better experienced without having every strange encounter explained beforehand. Control Resonant launches on the 24th of September. It's £49.99 for the standard edition or £59.99 for the digital deluxe edition. Add some in-game cosmetics alongside the digital art book and the soundtrack. Online 404 asks what a survival game would actually look like if you had one of the most useful survival tools already sitting right in your pocket, a smartphone. I played the demo during Steam Next Fest a while back, and there were some genuinely interesting ideas here. Rather than magically knowing every crafting recipe or how to pick locks and stuff like that, your phone becomes an important part of how you understand the world, including actually looking things up on the in-game Google, in quotation marks there, when you don't know how to make something, and then you spend some time in-game learning it, and now you know it. It's a modern-day open-world survival simulator playable either solo or with friends, and the developers are deliberately trying to challenge some of those genre conventions we've become so accustomed to. You can follow the story, or simply head out and survive however you want, but I'm particularly interested to see how far they take the phone mechanic beyond what I experienced in the demo. The demo was a little bit rough and it's very dark at times and stuff as well, so I'm excited to kind of see how this one's polished since that initial demo preview and when the game comes out, presumably in early access. Online 404 releases on the 25th of September, pricing still to be announced. Nivalis Nights is basically asking you to build another life inside a gigantic cyberpunk city. Rather than saving the world, you're trying to make your place within it. You can grow businesses, manage restaurants and nightclubs, buy and decorate apartments, meet people who might become friends or enemies, go fishing, and potentially even find someone to share your life with. And all this takes place across Nivalis, a huge vertical metropolis stretching all the way from the ocean beneath it to the clouds above it. It's the everyday life angle that makes this interesting to me. Cyberpunk games usually make us the mercenary, detective, the chosen hero. Nivalis Nights seems much more interested in what it might actually be like to live in one of these cities. Nivalis Nights releases on the 29th of September. It's currently no demo and pricing hasn't been announced. That's 18 games coming out in September 2026 for PC that I think are worth knowing about, and this might be one of the strongest months we've had this year, and that's before Gamescom at the time of recording, so who knows what else is coming in September and beyond. It's all very exciting. Obviously, a little shout out to Marvel Wolverine, which is coming out, but that is going to be a PS5 exclusive because Sony aren't bringing their solo single-player narrative games to PC anymore, so that's just going to be on PS5 if you are a PS5 owner. What I'm looking forward to personally, I think Blood of Dawnwalker, Control Resonant, and Silent Hill Townfall, they're obviously some of the bigger releases I'm excited to get my hands on, but I'm also really excited to revisit RIVAGE, see how Online 404 is developed from the demo I played, and definitely, I haven't been back to Velheim or RuneScape Dragonwilds since they first launched. Haven't checked out any of the updates, so quite intrigued to check out both of them. Not sure which one to start with first, but we'll probably take a look at one of them, Velheim or RuneScape, and have a play of them on the channel. Let me know what you're looking forward to most in the comments, and as always, if I've missed something you think deserves to be here, let me know about that too. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.